Hi everyone, and welcome to Frank Tufano News, your one and only news source for all things Frank Tufano, and we have a breaking news story for you today. Frank Tufano went out on a date with a girl for Valentine's Day, and a very pretty girl, no less. Now, that might sound hard to believe for a few reasons. For one thing, this girl looks like she's way out of Frank's league, and to begin with, Frank isn't even attracted to women.
Wanted to thank you for being such a good boyfriend. You were my first experience with a guy, and if we were still together, I wouldn't want to let you go. I feel like I was the reason we broke up.
Lewis.
I'm sorry. I gotta go to class.
Wait, Lewis, come on.
So as soon as I saw Frank upload this video where he went out on a Valentine's Day date with a girl, I knew it was fake. For one thing, Frank is very obviously gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's totally fine to be gay, I'm not criticizing Frank for that. But he's not going to go out on a date with a girl, he's just not interested in women. And I know Frank is going to deny that because he's still in the closet, so okay, let's just say for the sake of argument that Frank is straight. Okay, yeah. This girl isn't going to be interested in Frank. She's an extremely attractive woman. She's in her mid-20s. She lives in New York. She's not going to be interested in a guy like Frank who's a weirdo. He eats rotten meat from a jar. He goes outside dressed in Halloween costumes, and he still lives at home with his mommy. She's not going to be interested in a dude like that. She's going to be interested in an older guy who makes money, lives on his own, who's successful, who isn't gross. So there are only two possibilities here. Either Frank hired this girl from a, escort service, or he found her on some sort of modeling website and just hired her for this fake date thing. Well, escorts in New York, they're pretty expensive. Usually they charge around $300 an hour, and there's no way Frank is going to spend that kind of money on a woman. So that possibility was out, so this girl has to be a model. Frank found her somewhere. And what I thought was interesting was that in the thumbnail that Frank used, he didn't use a still shot from the date that they had. He used just an image that he found of her online. So I just did a reverse image search, and sure enough, this girl's Model Mayhem profile came up. This girl works as a model. And if you go to the list of photos she has on her Model Mayhem page, well, there you go. There's the thumbnail photo that Frank used. He just photoshopped it. So Frank was stupid enough to just make this easy for me to figure out that he just found this girl and hired her. And it kind of makes you wonder, why would Frank do something like this? Why would he go through the trouble of looking through Model Mayhem, trying to hire some woman to go on a date with him, set up this fake video? Well, Frank also made that very obvious in his comment section. So Frank left two comments. The one, he stated, "Damn, we're gonna have to rebrand to Frankie's European Woman Lovers Club." And he also left a comment about me saying, "Meanwhile, Vegan Gains is getting fatter on donuts with Harry Potter." So that's what it's all about. Frank is ashamed that he's gay. He wants to prove to everyone that he's straight. And he also wants to try and get back at me somehow, saying, "Oh, Vegan Gains and his wife are fat and ugly, but I can get really pretty girls." How pathetic is that Frank has to lie about his sexuality, lie about being able to get really pretty girls, just so that he can try and make a happily married couple feel bad. You wasted Valentine's Day with someone you don't like, have no interest in, while me and my wife are happily married. You are just a sad, pathetic little boy, Frank. And I know Frank's fans are going to try and defend him, saying that, oh no, Frank didn't hire this girl to go on a fake date with him. She just happens to work as a model, and Frank went out on an actual date with her. Well, this still doesn't add up. Nowhere did Frank mention that this girl works as a model. If Frank is going to try to make this point like, oh, look how pretty and hot this girl is, oh, I can get these really pretty girls to go on dates with me, why wouldn't he brag that he's going out on a date with a model? That's just a normal thing for straight guys to do, to say, oh, my girlfriend is so hot, or this girl I'm going to go out on a date with, she works as a model, that's how pretty she is. But Frank deliberately chose not to mention that she works as a model. it's as if he didn't want people to figure out that he hired her. So no, this is just a fake date. He hired this girl. Again, just bravo, Frank. You've proven once again that you're just a sad, pathetic little boy.
So I don't think this girl knows what I look like because I was introduced to a friend. I mean, she might have looked me up, so I kind of want to get her reaction to seeing me.
So Frank didn't even try to make this fake date seem the least bit realistic. For one thing, Frank says a friend of his set this whole date up. Yeah, as if you even have friends, Frank. I think people just try to keep their distance from you. Secondly, Frank says this is essentially a blind date because as if, like, if a friend of yours tried to set this date up with this girl, they're not going to show this girl photos of you, your YouTube channel. Yeah, pretty damn unlikely. And again, what's also interesting is Frank didn't even mention that this girl was a model. So weird how you'd say, oh yeah, I looked this girl up, I know what she looks like. Why didn't you mention that she works as a model? You've seen all these pretty photos of her. Yeah, oh, it's almost as if you're trying to hide the fact that you hired her.
You invited me to the Pink restaurant.
Yes,
Have you been there before?
I have.
So I thought this clip was kind of interesting. Frank is talking about her inviting him to the Pink restaurant in New York, and she said that she's been there herself. Well, I looked up this restaurant, and as far as I can tell, everything on the menu isn't vegan. Like, there literally isn't any dish you can order that is free of meat, dairy, eggs, which is interesting because later on in the date, she says she's been vegan her entire life.
So how long have you been vegan?
Since the day I was born.
So this is all very obviously a lie. This girl's claiming she's been vegan her entire life, but earlier on she admitted to going to a restaurant where there's literally nothing on the menu that you could order as a vegan. So obviously she's never been vegan. And, you know, clearly Frank just hired this girl and they, like, wrote out a rough outline of what's going to happen, like, oh, I'm going to meet you on the street, then we're going to go down to have dinner, then we're going to talk about how, you know, you were vegan, but you're, like, I convinced you to eat fish and stuff, and we have this romantic evening where, like, I convince a vegan to eat meat. Like, oh, it is just so painfully obvious that this is all a charade. And what really surprised me is this is good enough to fool Frank's audience. Frank has the most gullible, dense audience imaginable. People in the comment section are actually buying it. These are the same type of people who would be convinced by, like, televangelist Christian faith healers. So that's how Frank is successful on YouTube. He found a niche that is just made up of really gullible, dumb people, and he scams money out of them.
So the young lady did not disclose that she was vegan. You didn't do your research.
I did, I just didn't tell you about it.
You didn't tell me.
Yes.
So you are vegan.
Yes, but not ideologically.
Are you willing to eat fish? Today.
Today I'm willing to eat fish.
You're willing to eat fish. So how long have you been vegan?
Since the day I was born.
What do you mean? Were you breastfed?
I just never liked it.
Did you eat eggs or dairy? Or?
No.
So this is just really, really poorly improvised. Again, it's clear that they had a rough outline of how they wanted this conversation to go, but it's obvious that this girl doesn't even know what veganism is. What she said didn't make any sense. She said she's vegan, but not ideologically vegan, which is a contradiction because veganism is defined as an ideology. And she also claimed she never wanted to eat meat, dairy, or eggs just because she didn't feel like it? What kind of sense does that make? So when you were 8 years old and the ice cream truck, rolled through your street, you never bothered to stop and get ice cream because you just didn't feel like eating ice cream ever in your life, even when you were a kid? It's just stupid. Both of you are really terrible at improv, and it might have been worth it to have written out a script, memorized some lines, but I think Frank is too lazy to do that, and I don't think he paid this girl enough money for her to even bother to do it. He probably paid her like $50 and a free meal. So yeah, maybe it would have been worth it, Frank, for you to have hired an escort. You could have hired a transsexual escort. Then, she'd be paid enough money to actually memorize a script you'd write out, and she could also show you a good time afterwards because she has the parts, the anatomical features that you prefer.
But what did you think of the restaurant?
I eat cucumbers from your plate.
Yeah, that's what she had. So As many of you guys know, I'm a big fan of blood flow restriction training, so we're gonna go do some of that right now.
So then Frank just awkwardly ended this date video by making the strangest, like, sex pun? Blood flow restriction training? Like, what do you mean? Is she gonna choke you later? It makes no sense. Nothing about this made any sense. You just made it painfully obvious that you just hired a model because you're ashamed of being gay and you wanted to get back at me somehow. Well, you've succeeded once again in making a fool of yourself. I love how you just keep giving me fodder and content, Frank. It's great. Thanks again. And this is completely unrelated to the video, but please consider donating to the Sunset Farms Animal Sanctuary's GoFundMe. They're trying to raise money for a little baby goat they recently rescued named Spider-Man. He was discarded by the wool industry because he has spotted fur, which makes his, fur quality subpar. And he also has an issue with his front left leg where he can't bear any weight on it.
Hey guys, this is Dee Dee from Sunset Farms. Meet Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of 22 lambs that we've rescued this year. He was born with a pretty rare condition called spider legs. Both of his front legs have been non-weight bearing. After intense therapy from us for a month, he can now weight bear on his right leg. Look at that face. Look at that face. His left leg is going to require extensive surgery to give him a quality of life. And we can't do that without you. We're looking at between $4,000 and $5,000 just for the surgery. So we need your help. We need your help to give this little boy a fighting chance so that he can live life as nature intended him to live it. So that he can grow up here and be happy and be loved like every animal deserves to be. Help us, please.
And if you're interested in donating to the GoFundMe, I'll leave a link in the description. And with that said, Frank, anytime, again, the offer's on the table, we can have a live debate. I'm also fine with meeting you in person, having an arm wrestling match, a boxing match, whatever. I know you keep avoiding me because I keep embarrassing you, but it doesn't really seem to matter. I embarrass you either way. So I think, it's about time we either have another debate or we settle our differences in some sort of competition. So it's up to you, Frank. Anytime you can contact me. And as always, keep making those vegan gains.
Beef. What a relief. When will this poisonous product cease? This is another public service announcement. You can believe it or you can doubt it. Let us begin now with the cow. The way it gets to your plate and how.